The verdict is in the case of Sean John Combs, aka Diddy, in a long criminal trial. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. Many people wanted me to break down what's going on with the Diddy verdict, what's next, what jail time are we looking at the time that he may spend behind bars for what he was convicted of. So I thought I'd do that today in this Fast Facts premiere episode. If you like these quick episodes, please let me know in the comments below. It always helps me inspire me to do more of this shorter format. So as always, we have a lovely PowerPoint presentation, and let's get right into it. So obviously, you guys know Sean John Combs, Diddy. He was facing multiple charges related to several behaviors that he was allegedly engaging in at these Diddy parties, and there were some serious charges that were brought against him, but ultimately those were narrowed down to 5 core counts, 5 core charges. And we had yesterday a verdict. The jury went out once to decide. They had decided on 4 out of 5 of the counts, but they were split on the RICO, on the racketeering. They went back out, came back with a verdict, and ultimately what we got was not guilty on 3 counts and guilty on 2 counts. So on count 1, which was racketeering conspiracy, which was the biggest one, the one that could carry up to life for the RICO offense, not guilty. Not guilty of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Guilty on count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution. Not guilty on count 4 of sex trafficking. Once again, the second sex trafficking. And guilty on count 2 of transportation to engage in prostitution. So 2 prostitution charges that he's guilty of, count 3 and 5. They did not get him on the sex trafficking and did not get him on the RICO. Now, a lot of people ask, why is this? And we don't know precisely why yet. And even after we get the jury's version, that never may be entirety of the truth. There's a lot of reasons. My speculation, and these are some of the top reasons, I think. The first one is racketeering, conspiracy, RICO. They probably did not do a good job on the prosecution side of explaining that to the jury, convincing them of that. This is one that, if it's explained well, if they laid it out clearly, they should have been able to get that, but apparently they didn't do that. Another thing that has been brought up is perhaps some sympathies of the jurors. It seems like some may have had strong opinions. Maybe they had strong opinions about the witnesses. Maybe they didn't like some of the witnesses or some of the people. Maybe they didn't think they were credible witnesses. That's another one. Or maybe, and this is another one, maybe the defense just did a stellar job. So all of these things are possibilities, but we're always faced, after we muse these possibilities, with the reality. And the reality is that, yes, he is not convicted of everything, and he is not convicted of the harshest charges. However, he didn't get away scot-free. He still has 2 guilty counts, 2 guilty convictions. So what does that mean? What's next? Well, the first thing is, and this is Judge Asun Rahman, who actually came out and said, hey, we're not going to give this guy bail. So this is the judge in Diddy's case, this guy right up here. He said, hey, we're not giving any bail because Diddy has a disregard for the rule of law and a propensity for violence. And he said there's no requirement under the law. There's no reason why we have to give Diddy bail. And because we don't have to give Diddy bail, we're not going to give Diddy bail. So he's not entitled to bail. It's not something that he must get. So they're not going to give Diddy bail. However, what does that mean for his sentencing? So now that Diddy is convicted, he has to be sentenced, right? So he's been convicted on 2 counts, 2 guilty counts. So he has to be sentenced on those counts. So what type of time is Diddy facing? Now, I know a lot of clickbait is going to be out there talking about the max possible sentencing, because that's something that happens on YouTube. People want to give huge numbers. They want to say, oh, look, he's facing 20 years, 20 years. It is far from 20 years when you look at the reality of how these things are applied, particularly how they're going to be applied to Diddy. So we're going to look at that specifically and get you a real number, some real numbers on what I would estimate that Diddy would be facing. So let's get into that right now. So what is Diddy facing? So first of all, the sentences almost always run concurrently, not consecutively. So that would mean at the same time. So the real max for those two charges is not 20, but actually 10. The effective real max is 10. Now, beyond that, you have to look at the sentencing guidelines. These are guidelines which walk you through how harshly you should sentence somebody, under what categories you should sentence somebody. If they have a criminal history, it's more severe. And while these guidelines are not a straitjacket, the judge does not have to follow them to the T. They are generally abided by. So we're going to look at those guidelines and say, okay, how much is Diddy going to be sentenced? So when you look at those guidelines, you pull those up. For promoting a commercial act or prohibited conduct with an individual other than a minor, you look at the offense level, and these are numbers, and we're going to remember these numbers. 34 if it is trafficking of children, which this is not. So it is not 18 USC 1591. Instead, it is 2, any other offense, and that is number 14. So remember the number 14. That's the level at which we're going to go to on the sentencing guidelines. So we flip over here, and here's the sentencing guideline. We go to magic number 14, and we look at their criminal history. So the offense level is 14. We've determined our power level here. And then we've got our criminal history. Well, Diddy has no prior criminal history. He's never been convicted of anything like this in federal court before, period. So you go look down, you say, okay, well, he's at the lowest level of this. He's at the lowest level of criminal history. So you go down here, go to 14, and you look at 15 to 21. This is in months. So 15 to 21 months. But wait, Diddy's already been behind bars for 10 months. He's going to get time served. So realistically, what you have to do is you have to take this 15 to 21 minus the 10 months, and you get the reality of 5 to 11 months, not even a year in jail. Now, that being said, does that mean the judge has to give him this? No. In fact, the judge does not have to give him this time. The judge can even look at the crimes for which he was accused of, and there was perhaps evidence, but he wasn't convicted of. They can look at broader conduct. The judge can take a wider scope in sentencing, and the judge can bump this up, but within reason. Right? If the judge goes too crazy, if the judge goes too wild and really makes this a much higher number than 5 to 11 months, there's a lot of cause to challenge that, to try to attack that sentencing. So I think realistically 5 to 11 months, yeah, that's a good estimate. I think anything higher than 5 years would be crazy in terms of using the guidelines. Now, once again, this isn't to say anything morally about Diddy. This is just looking at the reality of the guidelines, the reality of the sentencing table, and how things play out in real court. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think this is a good outcome, bad outcome? How long do you think Diddy should be in jail? And I will catch you on the next one.